It's Auburn week here on Locked On Nittany Lions, but you know we have to talk about the rumors that we are sure to be hearing plenty of this week after USC has officially made a coaching change.
You are Locked On Nittany Lions, your daily podcast on the Penn State Nittany Lions, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
There is no better place to get all the Big Ten coverage you need than with the Locked On Big Ten podcast, hosted by Nate Dickinson every Monday through Friday on the Odyssey app, with an assortment of Big Ten hosts around the Locked On Podcast Network, including yours truly every Tuesday. So make sure when you're done listening to this episode of Locked On Nittany Lions, you hop on over to Locked On Big Ten on YouTube or on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts and check out all the Big Ten coverage going on with Locked On Big Ten. What's going on, everybody? My name is Kevin McGuire. I'm the host here of Locked On Nittany Lions. Pleased to be with you here every Monday through Friday talking all the latest Penn State football news. And I wasn't planning on getting into this topic today. It was nowhere on my radar, but we have to address it. We are going to talk a little bit about James Franklin and the inevitable rumors that are going to link him to the new coaching vacancy with the USC Trojans. I'm sorry, it's mandatory. We are obligated to address this topic of conversation anytime there's any rumbling about a coaching change at USC. We'll get into that a little bit later. We're also going to take a look at the updated national championship odds from BetOnline, see where Penn State is continuing to fit into that equation. And of course, we are going to get you updated. We have an updated kickoff time for Penn State's Week 4 matchup. I know we're all focused on the Auburn game this weekend, as we should be, but we are going to take a look forward and start to turn the page. We also have a lot of stuff going on this week with the podcast. We're going to be working with Locked On Auburn. Very excited over the next couple of days. You are not going to want to miss it. So if you are not already following on the Odyssey app or your favorite podcasting app, now is a great time to do so. We just had our best week ever on the Locked On Podcast Network last week. I think we're going to have an even better week this week, because not only are we on Odyssey and all the other podcasting apps you have out there, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and however else you may be listening to your podcast, but of course we're also on YouTube. Hi, you may be watching me on YouTube right now, and if you are, I want to make sure you hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below, and give this video a thumbs up. That'll really help us continue to grow this channel as we are just getting started. And again, you will not want to miss all the content we are delivering to you straight on YouTube. Yes, we are putting full podcast episodes in video format on our YouTube channel, but of course we will continue to have that audio version specifically for you podcast listeners on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, today is Twitter Tuesday. Best way to get involved with Twitter Tuesday is to send us your questions on our Twitter account at Locked On Nittany. We will also take comments that we get down in the YouTube comments. So if you're watching on YouTube, leave a comment down below and we will work that into the picture as well. I have one question that we're going to address a little bit later in this podcast, but stay connected with us on Twitter. We have a lot of fun there at Locked On Nittany. And don't forget to check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LockedOnNittany. We also have that Instagram account at instagram.com/LockedOnNittany. And again, don't forget to check out our brand new YouTube channel. We don't have a quick and easy to remember URL for the YouTube channel right now, but we will have the link to the YouTube channel in the show notes for this episode. And of course, all the other social media links will be down in the show notes or down in the comments down below. So without any further ado, I feel like we have to give you the fresh update from Penn State. This comes straight from Penn State's athletics department, also from Villanova's athletics department, because we now have a kickoff time for the Week 4 matchup between Penn State and Villanova. As fully expected, this is going to be a noon kickoff for Penn State against Villanova. It's going to air on the Big Ten Network. I don't think anybody is shocked at all by this development. This game had noon kickoff written all over it. It will be kind of interesting because Villanova is one of the better FCS schools, and we have seen some FCS schools come up with wins, put in some pretty good scares against FBS opponents so far this season. None that will be, not that we're expecting Villanova to give Penn State too much of a run. I'm kind of curious to see what that point spread is going to be. But Penn State should win that game pretty easily. So I don't think we're going to be losing any sleep over where Penn State is going into the Villanova game, coming out of the Villanova game. But as I said, fully expected this game to be a noon kickoff. It is officially a noon kickoff on the Big Ten Network. So go ahead and start planning your Week 4 accordingly, because now you know which time you have to deal with as far as that Penn State game is concerned. Or maybe you're just going to set it on the DVR and watch it later. This is not necessarily a game that should be considered appointment viewing, Although maybe you're a fan who considers every game appointment viewing, and if that's the case, hey, so be it. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to run your life, but there you go. Penn State, Villanova, noon kickoff on the Big Ten Network on Saturday, September 25th. All right, college football fans, I am here to ask you, have you heard about Prize Picks? If you haven't, here's what it is. Prize Picks makes daily fantasy football incredibly easy. And if you're a college football daily fantasy fan, then you got to check out Prize Picks. First of all, Prize Picks has every sport basically covered. NFL, college football, Major League Baseball. When basketball season comes around, they'll have the NBA and college hoops covered for you. All you have to do is pick 2 to 5 players, and then you pick the over-under on a number of projections. As far as college football is concerned, you can choose interceptions thrown, receiving yards, touchdowns, you name it, you can name your odds. And of course, all you got to do is pick the over-under. It's just you versus the numbers. So if you pick correctly, you're going to win. If you pick incorrectly, well, so better luck next time. But you're not competing against anybody else other than just the stats. So if you know your college football and you know that you've got a sleeper pick out of one of those non-power conference players that you can rely on, then you may have an inside advantage. Prize Picks has every college football power conference team covered, and again, they do have a number of those non-power conference teams as well. So if you are somebody who watches the Mountain West and the MAC, you may have a little bit of an extra advantage when it comes to beating those projections. So use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Prize Picks is safe and it offers fast withdrawals. So don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com or go to your App Store and download the app today. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. Week 3, big game in Happy Valley. Maybe you're going to make the road trip out for that pilgrimage and do some pregame tailgating this weekend, right? Well, before you hit the road, make sure your car or your truck or your RV is in good working condition and get anything that you need right now from our friends at rockauto.com. They're sponsoring today's podcast, and of course, they are always there to treat you like a family. This is a family business. They've been doing this for 20 years. How is that possible in an online atmosphere? Because they know what it takes to deliver the most cost-friendly and stress-free process for buying everything you need for your car. Nobody likes buying stuff for their car, especially when they need it the most. They're already stressing out about it. You don't have to do that with Rock Auto. All you do is go to their website, rockauto.com. You enter the make and model of your truck or your car or your RV, and it brings you up the entire catalog of everything they have available for your vehicle. And of course, they're going to give you the best prices possible. It doesn't matter if you're a car mechanic expert or a complete novice who knows nothing other than exactly what you're driving. That's why Rock Auto has been doing this for as long as they have. So go to rockauto.com right now and make a model of your car or your truck or your RV and see all the parts they have available for you. Don't forget to write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know that we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. I have absolutely been dreading this particular moment of the college football season, and I had no idea it was going to happen after 2 weeks. USC has officially fired their head coach, Clay Helton, who, of course, won a head-to-head victory against James Franklin and Penn State in the Rose Bowl a few seasons ago. Well, things have been going downhill for Clay Helton ever since that last-second victory against the Nittany Lions in that epic Rose Bowl. And now it has come to the end of the line for Clay Helton with the USC Trojans. On Monday afternoon, USC put out a press release announcing that they were effectively making an immediate coaching change, relieving Clay Helton of his head coaching duties and responsibilities, and moving on. I forget the name of the assistant coordinator who's going to be taking over as the interim head coach, but Clay Helton is out, and you know what that means, Penn State fans. Get ready for James Franklin coaching rumors. Oh my God, here we go again. It is absolutely insane how long we have been going through this circle of constant reminders that James Franklin would be an excellent coach for USC. It's already happening. I saw it on Twitter just minutes after the announcement from USC was made. Of course, this is part of the routine. Anytime there is a major coaching change in college football, the national reporters are going to put out a list of 10 coaches who may or may not actually be official candidates for the vacancy that has just opened up. But James Franklin's name has been attached to various USC coaching rumors for years. And I think everybody was just kind of waiting for when that moment was going to come, when USC finally decided to move on from Clay Helton. It feels as though this is something that could have been done 2 years ago, last offseason, and now here we are. It has finally arrived, and that means you have to brace yourself, because you are going to hear James Franklin's name attached to USC coaching rumor after USC coaching rumor after USC coaching rumor. He may not necessarily be the number one guy that's going to be drawing his name into those coaching rumors. We're already seeing tons of rumors about former Ohio State head coach, current Jacksonville Jaguars head coach, Urban Meyer, as that would seem to be an ideal location for Urban Meyer to return to college football. Would not entirely rule that possibility out, but let's just stick to the coaches that are in the college game right now. And if you're sticking to a college football coach, James Franklin is going to be one of those guys that is a trendy pick, a popular pick, and let's be honest, an easy pick. Now, I've said this before. I do think that James Franklin would be an excellent head coach for USC, because what does USC need? They need somebody who's going to know how to recruit. James Franklin knows how to do that. And generate enthusiasm. My goodness, James Franklin knows how to do that. James Franklin is a coach that could go to any job in the country, connect with that fan base very easily early on, say all the right things, and generate a lot of enthusiasm and excitement in rejuvenating the recruiting process. The thing with USC is it doesn't need much to be rejuvenated. It should not take very long for the right coach to come into that USC program and turn things around very quickly to elevate them to a perennial Pac-12 contender, which for a brief period of time looked like Clay Helton had done. Remember the year they went to the Rose Bowl against Penn State. They didn't win the Pac-12 that year, but it was certainly a team that felt like the best team in the Pac-12 at the end of the season. And then, of course, they did win the Pac-12 the following season and played in the, I believe, the Fiesta Bowl against Ohio State. So we know that there is great potential with that USC program. USC was one of those dominant programs in those BCS years under Pete Carroll. So the right coach can generate the enthusiasm, do the great recruiting. I understand there were some questions about USC's recruiting in the past. I'm just going to ignore that because USC knows how to recruit. USC should not have a problem recruiting. So I don't think that it's going to take very long if USC makes the right coaching hire for USC to be back at the top of the Pac-12. The question that every Penn State fan is going to be wondering is, how many times are they going to have to hear James Franklin say that he is not interested in the job, he's staying at Penn State? I don't know what the answer to that is, but I know it's going to be constant. Today, and when this podcast comes out, that's when James Franklin's usual weekly media conferences begin for that particular game week with the Big Ten conference call, media availability after practice. We're going to hear James Franklin have to address these questions. And I can tell you right now, he's not going to give you a whole lot of information. He's going to say that he is very happy where he currently is. He's probably going to say some things that kind of leaves you to speculate that, of course, he's going to have interest in the USC job, and that's going to upset some people. But that's where I think that we are going to be moving forward here. I do think that James Franklin has every reason to at least be interested in the USC job because it would be a great job for him. His personality and the way that he recruits would gel very well with that USC program on the West Coast. I think he would be an absolute crusher when it comes on the recruiting trail with that USC program. I don't think there's any question about that. He would absolutely kill it on the recruiting trail, and he would have USC back to being USC, I think, very quickly. I'm not saying that James Franklin is going to turn USC into a national title contender, but if you have seen what he has done at Penn State with the track record he has established, 2020 aside, you're talking about a guy that came into Penn State and took a program that was in some shambles, let's be honest, really had a lot of rebuilding to do, and turned in a Big Ten championship season, an appearance in the Rose Bowl, an appearance and a victory in the Fiesta Bowl, an appearance and a victory in the Cotton Bowl. There's some good things happening with this Penn State program. I don't see there's any reason why he could not do the same, if not more, with USC, because I do think that USC would be more accommodatable for more top-tier talent, certainly in the state of California. If anybody's going to dominate the state in California, James Franklin's probably that guy. And I know Chip Kelly is there doing some really good things with that UCLA program right now. And we know that California recruits don't always necessarily stay in California, but that would certainly be the mission statement that James Franklin would bring to USC, right? So we've seen that at Penn State. There's no question. Again, he would say all the right things from day one if he were to be the head coach of USC. I don't think he's going to leave Penn State, though. But I can't say for sure that I'm 100% confident in that because I do think that money speaks. I think that coaches are always looking for the next best job. And I'm not saying that USC is a better job than Penn State. I think they're pretty on par, but that USC job is pretty darn attractive as far as I'm concerned. It may not be as attractive as it traditionally and historically has been in the past, but there is a lot of potential with that USC program. If there is a sleeping giant in college football, it is Texas and it is USC. That's where I'm staying on this one. Maybe Tennessee, but for a little bit. But I do think that Texas, USC, those are signature jobs where you don't get many opportunities to accept it. So I fully expect that we're going to hear constant reminders that James Franklin is being pursued to some degree or is a candidate of interest for USC. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be. I think that James Franklin has established himself as a really top-notch recruiter. He's got the number one recruiting class in the class of 2022 right now, if I need to remind you of that. You don't think that that's on USC's radar? Don't be surprised if you see plenty of rumors connecting James Franklin to the USC coaching search. If USC does not have James Franklin on the radar, then they need to fire the AD there as well, because he should absolutely be on the short list of candidates of interest for USC. It doesn't mean that he's number one on USC's list or should be number one on USC's list. Urban Meyer's probably still number one. We'll see how that all plays out. But James Franklin, USC, that's a combination that would work very well. We'll have to just sit back and see where the chips fall. We'll see what the statements from James Franklin are. Maybe they're going to make you feel a little bit better. Maybe they're going to put you a little bit more on edge. I think you're going to be a little bit more on edge because I don't think that James Franklin is going to say anything that definitively shuts down the rumor mill. He has never done that before, and I don't think he's going to do it again. At the end of the day, I do think he'll still be Penn State's head coach in 2022. But again, everything is on the table right now. And when USC decides to dig into their pocketbooks, I think that they can make something work. So sit back, relax. We'll see where this all goes. But just brace yourself, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. We're one day closer to Penn State's big Week 3 primetime showdown with Auburn, and according to the latest lines from betonline.ag, Penn State is still a favorite at home, which is to be expected, right? If you're taking a look at some of the lines for this weekend's game, head on over to betonline.ag, get the latest odds, the point spreads, the prop bets that are always pretty fun too. You can make some parlays, whatever floats your boat, you can get it at betonline.ag. Of course, they've also got the NFL covered, lots of stuff going on there. Major League Baseball pennant races coming down to the wire. Maybe you want to place a couple bets on the baseball pennant races as well. I know that it's going to be a lot of fun this coming weekend, so make sure you check out everything going on at betonline.ag. It's totally free to sign up for an account. You don't have to make any financial commitment when you do so, but when you make your first initial deposit, make sure you use the promo code LOCKEDON, because BetOnline is going to give you a 100% welcome bonus on top of that first deposit, no matter what you put in. You put in $10 to your account, use the promo code LOCKEDON, BetOnline is going to give you $10 extra on top of that. You put in $20, they'll give you $20. You put in $50, they'll give you $50. You put in $100, well, you get the idea, but you got to use the promo code LOCKEDON. You're not going to get that kind of welcome bonus on any other betting website out there. That's why BetOnline is your sportsbook experts. All right, final segment of today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me in audio format on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts, or if you're joining us on our YouTube channel and watching this on your YouTube feed. Maybe you just have us opened up in one of your tabs. Hey, I don't care. You're here. You're leaving comments down below. And of course, you're also checking in with our Twitter account at Locked On Nittany and sending us your questions and your comments so we can include them in an upcoming episode. Today is Twitter Tuesday, though, so I do want to answer two questions that were submitted to us on our Twitter account at Locked On Nittany. Our first one comes from our good friend Andrew Callista over from Fox 43 in Harrisburg. Make sure you check out all the coverage that those guys have going on at Fox 43 Sports on their Twitter account. You can also follow my man Andrew at Callista Andrew on Twitter. He wants to know, will Penn State recruit a fullback now? Well, Andrew, the answer to that is simply no. Fullbacks don't exist in college football anymore, but it would be pretty cool to see if Penn State could find a way to bring in a big, solid fullback the way that Penn State classes of yesteryear we're accustomed to doing. It's just not a part of the game right now, and I think we see the advancements of offense and the way things are opening up, more athletic. Your running backs are going to be a little bit speedier. You're not necessarily worried about a blocking fullback. That's what an extra tight end is for. So I just feel as though the days of the fullback, as much as I would love to see it, I just don't see it happening. Unless you go with a full triple option offense, which I don't see that happening anytime soon with Penn State, I think we can put that one to rest. We do have another question from Matt Marcus. You can follow him on Twitter at MattMarcusLV from the Lehigh Valley. You may recognize that name if you're in the Lehigh Valley. He wants to know, would Franklin be interested in USC? Well, Mark, for that question, I'm going to direct you back to our previous segment in this episode. And yeah, absolutely, Franklin would be interested in USC. I'm not saying that there would be enough interest to draw him to USC from Penn State, but there's a lot of things to like about this USC job. I just went through it in the previous segment, but honestly, James Franklin would be the perfect candidate, I think, for a program like USC, because USC needs somebody who can recruit. James Franklin's got the #1 recruiting class, so yeah, he can recruit, and he's done really well in recruiting talent to Penn State since his arrival in Happy Valley. So yeah, I think that there would be a lot of things to like. And I think if you're James Franklin and you're looking at the potential of going to the USC job, you know that recruiting is going to be pretty easy to do there. I'm not saying it is easy, but it should be pretty easy to draw some really good recruits to that USC program and just continue to revamp that program very quickly. You've seen what he has done at Penn State. I have no doubt he could do the same, if not more, with the kind of caliber of athletes that USC would be bringing in. So I don't want to see it. I would love to see James Franklin stay at Penn State and continue to work the way that he has been doing. But yeah, if you are a coach and USC comes calling, you at least listen to the phone call. And I don't think anybody should be mad at James Franklin if he does pick up the phone and just hear what USC has to offer. Because at the end of the day, James Franklin is going to be getting paid. That's what I come down on this. It's either going to be paid by Penn State or he's going to be paid by USC. He's getting paid one way or the other. There are a lot of things to like about his current position at Penn State, and there are a lot of reasons why you'd be crazy to leave the kind of thing that you've built at Penn State for a rebuilding project to a degree with USC. It's not the easiest move to make. It would take some guts, I think, to do so, but at the end of the day, I think you'd be very successful at USC. So it's a lot to think about if you are James Franklin. I know it probably hurts some Penn State fans' ears to hear this, but yeah, if USC calls, he's going to be stupid not to at least listen to hear what they have to offer. That's going to do it for today's episode, but make sure you keep the fun going by checking out today's edition of Locked On Big Ten. I'll be over there talking some of these storylines that we talked about here in a little bit more of a Big Ten and national perspective, but also make sure you check out today's edition of Locked On Bets, because if you want to make some money on betonline.ag, then you got to listen to the Locked On Bets podcast hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. You're going to get their daily picks, their wrong team favorite picks. You're going to get some big point spread advice. You got to make sure you listen to the Locked On Bets podcast. It's brought to you by our friends at betonline.ag, and you can catch it on the Odyssey app. Make sure also on the Odyssey app you check out the editions of Locked On Nittany Lions. If you need to go back and listen to any previous episodes, get all caught up right in the Odyssey app. Of course, we're available on every other podcasting app under the sun, including Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So if you listen to us on any other podcasting platform, please make sure to just leave those ratings and reviews, because that'll help continue to grow the podcast on those various platforms. Of course, we're also on YouTube. If you are watching this on YouTube, thank you so much. Give this video a thumbs up and make sure you leave a comment down below with some of your thoughts on today's topics of conversation. And if you have any questions that you want to hear addressed on a future video, make sure you leave a comment down below. I read all of the comments, so I want to hear what you guys have to say, and I want to incorporate that conversation into the podcast as well. So make sure you leave those comments. Make sure you fire off those tweets at Locked On Nittany. And don't forget about our Facebook page. We're on facebook.com/LockedOnNittany. And of course, you can also follow us on Instagram at instagram.com/LockedOnNittany. My name, once again, is Kevin McGuire. I am the editor of NittanyLionsWire.com, a part of the USA Today Sports Media Group, and you can also find me contributing some stuff over on AthlonSports.com, so make sure you check out all that stuff that's going on. Lots of Penn State conversation over on Nittany Lions Wire. I've got some game previews going up on Athlon Sports in the coming days, and I also do a weekly picks paste that you can check out. Been doing pretty well at that so far. We hit a couple bumps in the road recently, but overall, it's been a good start to the season, so make sure you check that out. That's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, everybody, have a great day. Let's come back and do it all again tomorrow.